Hare Krishna. A very good evening. My heartiest welcome to all of you. Today's topic is management lessons from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Thanks a lot for sparing time and connecting here today evening. I promise you will definitely be able to pick some useful learning today. Please stay tuned. We have a very engaging content. So once again a very warm welcome to all of you. Let's start. Okay, so first of all, let me give you a snapshot of today's content. As we know, management is the art of getting things done through others. But we know unless we are inspired, how can we motivate others? This means management is about managing the leadership and leadership style. Now the situation with present management system is that we talk only at superficial level. We talk about targets, we talk about profits, we talk about the values also, but we don't know what we should have in our team members at the core of their hearts so that they can display those values. However, in case of Bhagavad Gita, it's an entirely different approach. It's a spiritual book, but it gives you learning in all spheres of our life. Bhagavad Gita takes the different approach. It takes inside out approach. Bhagavad Gita tackles the issues from the grassroots levels of human thinking, because we know if our basic thinking is improved, automatically our actions will be of good quality, and finally we will be able to achieve the desired results. Let me first introduce myself to all of you. I am a business consultant having more than 29 years of industry experience. I have worked for various organizations including Honda Cars India Limited, and from last 7 years I am freelancing as a business consultant. I am a mechanical engineer by qualification. I am a TQM and Lean Six Sigma expert, and I am familiar with Japanese business management techniques like Kaizen, Quality Circle, 5S, etc. In last 7 years, I have completed around 120 projects in 50 reputed organizations and helped them in improving their profitability, productivity, efficiency, quality, etc. I am a certified chief instructor from Honda Motor Company, Japan. From last 12 years, I am associated with ISS. This is Institute for Science and Spirituality, a scientific study wing of ISKCON Delhi. I have keen interest in studying Bhagavad Gita for learning in corporate management. Let's have a look at today's content. The flow will be like this: present situation in corporates, problem with present systems of business management, 12 timeless management lessons from Bhagavad Gita. We'll have an interview with a successful business leader here in this session, and finally live question and answer session. Now let us understand what is the situation in today's corporates. I will begin with a simple question: why do we work? I asked this question to so many people, and these are the answers I received. The first answer is that we are working for money, right? Then we are working for positive engagement so that we can get happiness and peace. This means we are expecting something more than money from a working place. Now let's see what we are getting against our expectations. Earning money. Yes, we get money when we work. Positive engagement. Now here we have a big question. And the same question is for happiness and peace. This means many people are dissatisfied at their workplace, and some of them are frustrated also. All of us, we know what kind of environment we have these days in our corporates: dirty politics, groupism, ego, exploitation, favoritism, financial frauds. One needs to be really expert in these traits if he wants to be successful. Now let us understand what is the impact of that kind of environment on our physical and mental fitness. The American Institute of Stress they publish a report on mental and physical fitness in USA. In a report which was published some time back, they give this kind of information. The report says that 40% of workers, they say that their job is extremely stressful, and 25% feel that their jobs is the number one stressor in their lives. If we see the data on worldwide front, 48% of the employees, they don't even like their jobs. Only 30% feel engaged and inspired by their careers. These data may be different in different reports, but there is no denial on this fact that the environment in present day corporates is not encouraging at all. Let us find what the experts have to say on management. Mr. Peter Drucker, who is father of the modern management, he says, management is to manage managers, workers and work. Ms. Perry Parker says, management is the art of getting things done through other people, right? And according to Mr. Taylor, management is the art of knowing what you want to do and then getting this thing done in the cheapest way. So they speak about getting the things done, but no one speaks about how. No one speaks about inner values. No one speaks about the environment. So that is missing. So the present management systems, they have a big problem. They talk about problems or solution at very superficial level, at very external level. They talk about profit, they talk about company goals, they talk about how to expand the company, they talk about how to improve the efficiency, productivity, etc., etc. But they don't talk about the working environment. They don't talk about how to develop their team, and they don't talk about what kind of values should be given to the team members. Now the next point is that even if we talk about the values, we still have this question, how to get the inspiration to display those values. For example, the values are, we have to be honest, we have to be punctual, we have to see the overall benefit of the company. But now the point is that what kind of inner values, what kind of inner strength I should have, from where I will get the inspiration so that I can behave like that, or I can display those values. One important aspect is that all these management theories are coming from West, and like we have been brought up in this environment where we see anything coming from the West is good. So as a result, what is happening? The whole management system is based on the materialistic approach. The holistic approach is missing. That's why this kind of environment is there. In contrast to that, Bhagavad Gita gives us a complete solution. It inspires the leader to go deep within to the core of himself and find the wisdom. It clearly positions personal leadership as the foundation of public leadership. The lessons from Bhagavad Gita were appropriate in the past, they are applicable now, and they will be applicable in the future also. They have been time tested by many people across all the fields of life. Several great leaders in the world, they have studied Bhagavad Gita and taken learning from Bhagavad Gita. Let's take 2-3 examples here. Our present Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi says about Bhagavad Gita that Bhagavad Gita is the biggest gift that I can give, and it is the biggest gift the world can receive. Mahatma Gandhi used to refer Bhagavad Gita to find solutions whenever he had some problem. Albert Einstein was also very impressed with Bhagavad Gita. So with this background, now let's start the main topic of today's session, management lessons from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So these are the 12 lessons we will discuss one by one. Work culture, lead by example, leadership beyond position, equanimity, efficient management by understanding the 3 modes of nature, mind control, being present, work with a sense of detachment, workplace ethics, managing our speech, and how to deal with negative elements, and finally, do your best and leave the rest. For all the content in this presentation, I have referred Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. However, the interpretations and linking of Bhagavad Gita texts with the management concept, that is purely my understanding. Let's begin with our first lesson from Bhagavad Gita, Work Culture. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, Shloka 1-3, Krishna explains these qualities. These should be practiced at personal level and as well as at organization level. We will discuss only a few due to limitation of time. First is fearlessness. All the employees should feel free to express their thoughts, ideas, difference of opinions, etc. Then only they will be able to contribute towards the growth of the company. This is applicable to all levels: peons, workers, newly joined team members, managers and business heads. Second is truthfulness. Top management should encourage the staff to state the actual facts. We have seen the situations where data are misrepresented or distorted to make the reports pleasing to top management. This kind of culture is not healthy for any company. Next, aversion to fault finding. All of us have shortcomings and weak areas. No one is perfect. We should build on the strengths of our team and avoid the habits of finding faults. Each one should be given support to improve upon his weak areas. Forgiveness. To err is human, all we know. All of us make mistakes, so we should not make a big issue on small mistakes. We should promote a culture of tolerance and acceptance. In next sloka in the same chapter, Krishna speaks about what to avoid or discourage. No one likes to work in a team where leader is arrogant, speaks harshly, and always keeps on boasting about himself. Next lesson is lead by example. In chapter 3, Shloka 21, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna says, Yat yat acharati seshtha tat eva itara jana sa yat parmanum kurute loka tat anvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. This means the responsibility of creating a good culture lies with top leaders. If they want their employees to be on time, they themselves must be punctual. If they want employees to speak truth, they should speak truth. You cannot behave in a certain way and expect the employees, team members or subordinates to behave differently. I have seen in one of the companies where I work, my president used to do his small things by himself, like photocopying, taking tea from the vending machine or getting water from the cooler. This kind of displayed behavior is very inspiring. One other important thing, what we must notice here is Krishna says whatever action the leader performs, not what he says. People follow whatever we do and not whatever we say. One of the good examples in this context is Mr. Sridhan, the metro man. He used to apply the learnings of Bhagavad Gita in his day-to-day working. So once he was asked this question, what is the best way to motivate people? Is it praise or salary or something else? And he gave the simple answer. The best way to motivate people is to set an example for them. So we have to work like a role model if we really want to inspire the teams. Let's take our next lesson, leadership beyond position. We know Krishna accepted the role of chariot driver for Arjuna. He took the humble role of a mediator and negotiator. He also washed the feet of all guests in Rasuya sacrifice of Yudhishthira Maharaj. What does it teach? We need to practice the concept of servant leaders. A leader has to work beyond his position. This picture shows us the difference between a leader and a boss. Boss here means the person who uses his authority to get the work done. The leader is like the sugar cane and boss is like a bamboo. Leader has so many good traits to inspire. He listens to the team members. He gives lots of support, motivation and strength, whereas boss only demands. Actually, leadership is a responsibility. It is a service. It is not a position to show power, authority or influence. Here we can see the differences between boss and leader in detail. But in a nutshell, a boss demands results, whereas a leader inspires performance. Our next lesson is equanimity. हिंदी में बोले तो समभाव, to keep ourselves steady in all situations. In chapter 14, shloka 24, Krishna advises Arjuna, sam dukh sukha swastha dhir tulya ninda atma sanstuti, to be equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor. We must develop a right attitude for success or failure. One must be detached. This doesn't mean that we don't need success. This actually means we should try our best. Success will be there. We should not be unnecessary in the seventh heaven in case of success. Neither we should feel depressed if one of our projects fails or we are not able to get the desired results. We should not fear from the failures. In fact, we should try again with more energy, enthusiasm and preparedness. One should not think that only individual success is required in an organization. Sometimes one team may succeed, another time other team may succeed. But for the overall success of the organization, all the team should keep on working with full enthusiasm without losing their focus. This is called detachment. We have countless examples where people failed many times before succeeding finally. Michael Jordan said, I have failed over. Let's move to our next lesson, 3 modes of nature. To learn this concept, we must understand first what are these 3 modes. These 3 modes are Satoguna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Let's understand these gunas one by one. First is mode of goodness, that is Satoguna. In this mode, a person feels happy, he is satisfied and he is in full knowledge. Next is Rajoguna. Now let's understand what they mean in our context. A manager in the mode of ignorance will be obstinate, that is Jiddi, lazy in his work, delaying the things, he will be insulting others and he will be sad most of the time. A manager in the mode of passion is very much attached to the results of his action. He feels restless and disappointed if the results are not visible immediately. He is very greedy and he doesn't like others to succeed or achieve more than him. He feels happy and sad at small things. He gets disturbed easily. A manager is said to be in the mode of goodness, Satoguna, if he has unflinching determination, he is always enthusiastic and doesn't get disturbed easily on small success or failure. Now the important point is what we should do to get the best performance from a manager. For this, we should have a best mix of these 3 gunas. In my understanding, best mix means Tamoguna should be minimum, then Rajoguna and then Satoguna as depicted by 3 white circles on the screen. Now let's evaluate ourselves where we stand, which mode best defines us. The next point is what to do if we have to shift from Tamoguna to upper gunas, that is Rajoguna or Satoguna. For this, we must associate with that guna where we want to go. Like to cultivate the mood of goodness, Satoguna, we should practice these qualities like cleanliness, eating sattvic food, simplicity in body, mind, and words. All these qualities we can practice if we want to move towards Satoguna. Now, my favorite lesson, mind control. To learn this concept, let's first take an example from a frequent situation at our workplace. Please think of a situation where the team is working under pressure, targets are very difficult to achieve, there are huge differences of opinions among the team members, no one is willing to listen, all team members are angry and frustrated, and no solution is visible. Now let's consider two managers, Manager A and Manager B. Let's see how each one of them handles this situation. Manager A, shown on the left side of the screen, listens attentively, understands the situation calmly, focuses on the solution, thinks positively, and is able to lead the team come out of the difficult situation. However, in the same situation, let's see how does the Manager B behaves. He is carried away by the situation, loses his temper, gets angry, shouts, is not able to focus due to agitated mind. He is not able to solve the problem. Let's try to find out why did they behave differently in the same situation. This is all about mind control. In Shloka 6.5, Krishna says, the mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Our mind is like a knife. We have to use it with utmost care. But how to use it wisely means how to control our mind. This is a vast topic. We can have a separate session on mind control, but we can discuss in short here. These days, many theories are prevalent in the market, media, YouTube, etc. Everyone seems to be giving his ideas to control the mind. Some of them even claim to control the mind in 10 minutes. None of them is effective or permanent. Then what is the right way? The right way to control mind is given by the God himself, who has created our mind. Who knows better than him? Krishna says, there is no shortcut. Mind can be controlled with practice and detachment. This is explained beautifully with this example. In this picture on the left side, the complete hierarchy of our senses, mind, intelligence and soul is shown. Horses are our senses, reins is our mind, the driver is intelligence and soul is the owner of the chariot. Mind can be controlled by making our intelligence strong, and intelligence can be purified or made strong when the soul gets connected to the super soul, that is Krishna. We have to practice to pull our mind from the understanding from the undesired things or activities. For example, if I see jalebi in the market, my mind may wish to enjoy hot sweet jalebis. But if I am a diabetic, now if my intelligence is strong, it will control the mind and I will refrain from eating jalebis. But if the mind is strong, it would say, don't worry, nothing will happen, let's enjoy now, we'll see it later. Now, if I want to control my mind, I need to pull it back again and again. This way, slowly and slowly, it can be controlled with patience. So, this is the formula for mind control. Our next question is how to connect ourselves with Super Soul and purify our intelligence. This is the most scientific meditation technique, chanting of Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This has been established by many studies and researches. This is not something sentimental, but this is a scientifically proven fact. Our next lesson is being present, to be mindful in whatever we do. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2.41, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. We must do only one thing at a time and focus our mind on that one thing only. We should stay focused and complete whatever we have decided. The quality of the output is best when we do something with full concentration. I have seen many people who will try to do so many things at a time to be more efficient, but this is only their myth. I remember an incident when we entered into the office of one of my clients at the appointed time. There were already 2-3 persons sitting just outside his office waiting for their turn as they had been called for some urgent meeting. And 2-3 managers were sitting in front of him in his office, and when we just entered the room to inform him that we were there and we would be waiting for our turn, actually we could not even inform him as he was on a phone call and he was already working on his laptop. This was a very funny situation. We had a very tough time controlling our laugh. Actually, it is a scientific fact also. Our brain cannot do multitasking. Let's see a study on this. This study was published in Harvard Business Review. The findings are here for all of us. We can see that efficiency can drop by as much as 40%. We have a brain with billions of neurons and many trillion of connections, but we are not able of doing multiple things at the same time. Actually, multitasking does not exist. We just keep on switching the tasks instead. Let's take a simple example. If you listen to speech, your visual cortex becomes less active. So when you talk on the phone to a client and work on the computer at the same time, you literally hear less of what the client is saying. So as Krishna suggests, let's prioritize our activities and focus on one thing at a time. Our next learning is work with the spirit of detachment. In chapter 2, Shloka 47, Krishna says the most popular shloka, Karma Naivedikaraste Ma Phaleshu Kadachan. This is the most misinterpreted shloka also. Krishna here says that perform your duty but with detachment. Does it mean that we should not be looking for results? Let's see. In our day-to-day working, we deal with so many issues, many problems, and we have so many factors which cause that problem and so many solutions, options which can solve that issue. But many a times, all those factors are not in our control. There are certain factors which are not able, where we are not able to do anything. So what approach we take or suggest to our team? Of course, all of us here agree that we ask them to do at least whatever is there in their hand. Same principle Krishna says here. We should focus on karma, that is action, and not on its results, as result is the outcome of action. We should give sufficient time and deliberations to decide our actions. Then we should monitor the execution of actions and not merely results. Results will eventually come if those agreed actions are done perfectly. When we are too much focused on results, it can cause worry and anxiety, and as a result, we are not able to give full attention on the karma being performed in the present. That's why in Japanese management culture, they give so much focus on process, because they know if the process is followed wholeheartedly, results are bound to come. Our next lesson is workplace ethics. This is very easy to understand. Krishna says, Trividham Narkasya Idam Dwaram. Dwaram means gate. What are these three gates? Kam, Krodh and Lobh. I have seen many people falling in this trap and facing dire consequences. In fact, I have seen many people losing their jobs, even at very high level, due to lust. Many people losing their jobs due to financial misappropriation. This happened because of greed only. Several times we have done wrong things in a fit of anger, which we repented later. So we should avoid these three gates to hell. How it can be done? By shifting ourselves to Satoguna, as we have explained earlier. Managing our speech. This is very important. Let's see what Krishna says about this. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, Shloka 15, we should speak those words which are truthful, pleasing, beneficial and not agitating to others. It seems very difficult to be truthful and pleasing at the same time, but I have seen many leaders who are able to manage this most of the time. I have my personal experience. I told lies on several occasions but later realized that results would have been same if I had spoken the truth. Some people just have a habit of telling lies just to make their words more interesting, impressive or to show the achievement. This should be avoided. No one likes to work for a leader who is harsh and who always hides the facts. Now let's see very interesting statistics on our screen. Everyone is unique and each one of us has our unique strength. That's how the combined strength of the team is more than an individual. But our way of thinking, our opinion or understanding must be expressed in a pleasing tone. A bad tone is the major cause of conflict in most of the cases, like the data shows here. Whatever you give, you will get the same from opposite side. It reminds me of Newton's third law of motion. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Krishna also emphasizes on the pleasing words in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.23.2. He says, there is virtually no man in this world who is capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words. These insulting words are like arrows, so we should speak softly. Here are few examples where we can see how can we change our words and tone so that they don't agitate others. First example is, what the hell is this? But we can say, it seems everything is not okay here, let's do something. Next, how much more time will you take, you stupid? But we can say, do you need any assistance in this work? And one more example we can take, like if we are saying, why the report is not done till now? But correctly we can say, when can I expect the report from you? It's urgent, I hope you understand. Next lesson is how to deal with the negative elements. We have seen many people saying, I am positive, but what to do if I have to deal with negative people? People say so many bad words about us on our face or behind us. Let's find out the learning from Bhagavad Gita on this. We should think in this situation, it's God's arrangement to make me humble and more evolved person. It is His feedback system. When we get a negative feedback, there are two cases. Either it's right, then we must improve ourselves. This is for our benefit. If the feedback is wrong, we must take this as opportunity to evaluate ourselves, how much strength I have to control my turmoil in this situation. And we should practice to ignore this kind of bad words. Our strength is to keep ourselves undisturbed and not in giving him a befitting reply. If we give him a befitting reply, he is not going to change and we will be dragged more deep into this. So finally, if we have tried our best, done everything right from our side, taken all precautions, or we have planned the things to our best capability, now what next? Krishna says, then leave the rest to me. In Shloka 2.48, Krishna says, perform your duty equipoised. Whenever we perform an action, naturally we have our expectations, but the actual results can be more than, equal to or less than our expectations. Whatever be the outcome, the Gita teaches us to accept it gracefully by maintaining a state of evenness of mind, samta. I have my personal formula of 30% in my life, to which many of my friends and family members also agree. This formula says, whatever best you plan, or even if you prepare at very high micro level, about 30% of the things are bound to deviate, means they won't happen the way you might have foreseen. So I am mentally prepared for the same. Okay, So this brings us towards the conclusion of this segment of the session. Everyone wants to succeed in their life. Do you want to know how can we get success every time? Let's see. Actually, there are many definitions of success and many ways to get the success. Like you can see here on the screen, Mr. Colin Powell said, success is the result of perfection, hard work, learning from failure, loyalty and persistence. Similarly, Mr. Pele said, success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice and most of all, love of what you are doing or learning to do. Henry Ford said, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is a progress and working together is a success. So there are different definitions we can see here. But the ultimate truth is this. This is the last sloka of Bhagavad Gita spoken by Sanjay. Yatra Yogeshwar Krishna, Yatra Parth Dhanudhara, Tatra Shri Vijay Bhuti Dhruva Niti Matimam. जहाँ योगेश्वर कृष्ण है और जहाँ परम धनुर्धर अर्जुन है, वहीं ऐश्वर्य, विजय, अलौकिक शक्ति तथा नीति भी निश्चित रूप से रहती है, ऐसा मेरा मत है. Wherever there is Krishna and wherever there is Arjuna, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power and morality. Arjuna had all the qualities that we discussed today and he remembered Krishna every moment. That's why he was successful. This means if we practice these lessons and accept the presence of God and always remember Him, we will have all the success, opulence, victory, extraordinary power and morality. So with this, the first segment of this session is over. Thanks a lot for your patient listening. Hope we will be able to apply some lessons in our personal and professional life. Thanks once again. Hare Krishna. Welcome to all of you once again. In this segment, we will have an interview with a very senior corporate leader. Let me first give you a brief description about him. Mr. Arun Sharma is a highly successful business leader. He has more than 30 years of rich experience in automobile industry. He has worked for many prestigious organizations at very senior level. Presently, he is working as Managing Director of Leakless Gasket India Private Limited since 2017. It is a 100% subsidiary of Nippon Leakless Corporation, Japan. Prior to that, he has worked as Vice President and Operating Head for Manufacturing Operations in Honda Cars India Limited for 21 years. He did his BE in Mechanical Engineering in 1990 from Maulana Azad College of Technology, Bhopal. He has many achievements to his credit, which you can see here on the screen. He has been studying and applying the learnings from Bhagavad Gita in his life for many years. Let's meet him and ask him some interesting questions. Mr. Arun Sharma, very good evening to you. Welcome to our session. Thanks a lot, sir, for sparing some time for us today. Let me ask you some questions about your experience with Bhagavad Gita. So, to begin with, sir, when did you read Bhagavad Gita for the first time?
Thank you, Mr. Nagpal, for giving me this opportunity. I am really honored to be part of this platform. Regarding your question, then when I started reading this Gita, so during my school days, I used to read Ramayana, Shiv Purana, and other scriptures. And after that, way back in 1996, I went to Vrindavan for the first time, and there somebody gifted me this Gita. And since 1996, I started reading Gita, and for the last 24 years now, I am reading Gita and trying to understand grasp the meaning of. But the subjects written in Gita are very complex in nature and very difficult to understand. even after 24 years of reading Gita, still I can just say that I could understand the 20-30% of the essence what is written here. And but whenever I read, I feel very excited that it's the God's own words, and I think this is the only scripture in the world which is told by the Lord itself. And when we talk about so Gita, I can just summarize it in one like that. Whenever you buy any product from the market, so we get a manual, so which is basically its operation manual. So Lord Krishna has said this Gita so 5,000 years ago, and that is just like a manual for our human life. And if we read it carefully and we really understand the content of it and what the God or Krishna wants to say, I think we can understand the real purpose of our life and we can live happily. That is what I can understand from Gita. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. What has been impact of Gita in your life?
Thank you very much, Mr. Nagpal. And as I said that I have been reading Gita for many years. And if you talk about my actions on personal and professional ways both, your actions depends upon your mind, and your mind controls your actions. So normally his mind is influenced by the learnings from Gita. So at different situations, sometimes situations are very critical, and also there are many doubts come in your mind. But when you focus the learnings from Gita, especially in Gita, it always says that karmanya vadika raste ma phaleshu kadachana, like we are just focused on the karma, not on the fruits. So that the thought comes in your mind, then all your actions become very light in nature, because the position you are in basically is given by Krishna, and then whatever best or the dharma says at that time, then you have to take a decision which should be appropriate in in that perspective. So which may or may not be liked by all the person at the time, but you have to take a decision on that. If you understand the meaning of that, the Krishna is the originator of all living beings, so your surrenderness to Krishna is always very high. And when you have a belief that whatever the things you have in your life, like your family, wealth, relatives, etc., everything belongs to Krishna, and he is the real proprietor of all the things, and we are just like a watchman, and nothing actually belongs to us. So this is the real fact of the life, and I always take my decision based on the fact that we are just the custodian of the property of Krishna, and then we have to take it like a very serious job, and we should try to take a decision as is written in Gita, so that we can be honest to ourselves, we can be honest to Krishna, and we can always follow the dharma. That is what I learned from Gita. Thank you.
Sir, many people do not keep Gita at their homes. What is your take on this?
This is very interesting questions. In my house also there has been a lot of debate that why to keep Gita at home, that and if you keep Gita and read Gita most of the time, then you can have a Mahabharata, or means fighting among the brothers. But actually it is not the case. With it, I've been reading Gita for the last 24 years, and then I've been in the joint family since my birth, and by the Krishna's blessings, all our brothers are still together. We are happily living, and we are here in the time of testing time, and we need each other, so we are together. So this is not the fact that if you read Gita, then means you are encouraged to have a different kind of your family problems. Actually, Gita always teaches us to follow your dharma. Means like you have to serve your parents, you have to help the all human beings, and if you see all the living beings as a spirited soul, then your angle of seeing two things are totally different. And this is the biggest dilemma in the society, that such words from the Lord's mouth, like the Gita, is being thought in that way sometimes, but actually it is not the case. My strong recommendation is everybody must read Gita and must try to improve the way of life. As I said, so this is the basically OPS, or the manual for living a good life, so please follow it. That's all. Thank you.
Sir, thank you for your comments on that question. Moving to next, which part of Gita has influenced you most?
Thank you, Mr. Nagpal. I think this is very difficult question to answer, that which part of the Gita you like most. Actually, Gita is full of knowledge, and each shloka has very deep rooted meaning. And I am not actually the person who can really answer this, but whatever I could understand from Gita is that, Gita tells about that what is the difference between body and the soul, what is karma, then the glories of Lord Krishna, Bhagavan, and how this world, universe is created, and how we can go back to our original home. So at different situations we understand the meaning, especially if you understand that we are not this body, we are the soul, and then this is our continuous journey, and if we want to get rid of this journey, actually then we have to qualify ourselves, and then God is waiting for us. But how to get out of this world and then get out this vicious circle, this is also very important, and this is also being taught in Krishna's words, and who says that मामेक शरणम, मेरे केवल शरण में आ जाओ तो मैं तुम्हारा सभी दुखों से उद्धार कर दूंगा. And he also says that मन मना भाव मद भक्ति मत याजी माम नमस्कारो, के मेरा मनन करो, मेरी भक्ति करो, मेरी पूजा करो, मुझे नमस्कार करो. इस तरह करने से आप सारे दुखों से पार हो जाओगे. So like many shlokas like कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन, कर्म करने पे तुम्हारा अधिकार है, फल पे नहीं है. तो जैसे जैसे आप गीता को पढ़ना शुरू करते हो, पहले अध्याय से लेकर 18वें अध्याय तक आपका ज्ञान धीरे धीरे बढ़ता जाता है, और आप कर्मों के लेवल से लेके आप भगवान के सेंटर में रख के जब कार्य करना शुरू कर देते हो, इसका मतलब आपका रियली ज्ञान प्राप्त हो गया है. बट वो स्टेज आने के लिए आपके कर्म के साथ साथ भगवत कृपा होनी बहुत ज़रूरी है, और भगवान को हमेशा याद करना भी बहुत ज़रूरी है, नमस्कार करना बहुत ज़रूरी है, पूजा करना बहुत ज़रूरी है, और भगवान के नामों का निरंतर जप करते हुए ही हम अपने आध्यात्मिक लाइफ के अंदर प्रगति कर सकते हैं, और इस प्रकार हम भगवान के धाम वापस जा सकते हैं. आई थिंक दैट इज व्हाट आई अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम कृष्ण गीता, एंड दिस इज द रियली nothing I think which we have been listening since our childhood, in the form of different stories, or maybe told by our parents, grandparents, but how to practice it, I think very difficult thing. So भगवान का लगातार नाम लेना, भगवान की जो टीचिंग्स दी हैं फॉलो करना, भगवान ने जो टीचिंग्स हैं वही धर्म है, उसके अलावा सब अधर्म है. तो अगर ये जानकारी हमें हो जाती है, और हम लगातार भगवान, जब भी कोई कन्फ्यूजन होता है, हमें किस प्रकार का, हमें कुछ शक होता है अपने कर्मों के बारे में, हमें गीता को जरूर पढ़ना चाहिए. वो हमारे को सही में एनलाइटन करता है, और हमारे सभी शंकाओं को दूर करता है. और गीता में लिखा एक श्लोक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है, और लाइफ के हर मोड़ पर ऐसा कोई भी क्वेश्चन नहीं है जिसका उत्तर गीता में विदित नहीं है। थैंक यू।
Sir, has Bhagavad Gita supported you in your professional career?
Thank you, Mr. Nakpal, about that question. As you mentioned, that now I have a total of 30 years of experience, and all the experience is in the corporate world, and that is in the private sector. And many persons have the experience of working in the corporate, and many may not have, but they have heard a lot about corporate sector, that there is a cutthroat competition, and then if you want to rise to the top, then maybe you have to do many even not the good things to reach to the top. That is the somehow I agree with that. But if you follow the lessons from Gita, I think that if you as an individual you follow Gita, then of course it all depends upon personal habits and also your own dharma. Gita always focuses on the karma, and then if your focus is that you have to follow the dharma, and then not just do the karma and not the result oriented. Sometimes you get confused that if you are not target oriented, then how will you survive? Actually, target orientation is also part of the karma. When you talk about the fruits, these are all basically your personal, that you want to get promotion, that you want to get a big car, maybe you want to reach to the top very quickly. So you should keep all these things apart and then just focus on the karma, and then whatever you get is all Krishna's arrangement. And Gita also says that that is also true in personal or professional way, that you have to be sambhava. Sambhava means that you have to be in the equal state of mind. जिस प्रकार से एक मौसम में सर्दी आती है, गर्मी आती है, बरसात और ऋतु आती रहती हैं, उसी प्रकार से एक पुरुष के जीवन में विभिन्न परिस्थिति आती रहती हैं, जिसमें सुख भी होता है, दुख भी होता है। ऐसा शायद इस पृथ्वी पे कोई भी प्राणी या मनुष्य नहीं होगा जिसके जीवन में केवल सुख ही सुख हो या केवल दुख ही दुख हो। तो प्रत्येक के जीवन में सुख और दुख दोनों आते रहते हैं। वो आना अवश्य भावी है। तो उन चीज़ों को आप कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते हैं। गीता बार बार ये कहते हैं कि हमें अपने आप को कंट्रोल करना है, सो दैट इन परिस्थितियों का हमारे ऊपर प्रभाव ना पड़े और हम अपने कर्मों को सही प्रकार से करते हुए अपने आगे का रास्ता चुन सकें। यही बात प्रोफेशनल लाइफ के अंदर भी होती है। आपको क्या हासिल होता है, आप प्रमोशन मिलती है नहीं मिलती है, आपको पैसा ज़्यादा मिलता है नहीं मिलता, इस बात से प्रभावित ना हो कि आपको क्या कर्म करने हैं, क्या आपने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए ठीक है, क्या आपका जो रूम मिला हुआ है उसके साथ ठीक है। केवल वहीं तक सोचना चाहिए, वहीं तक फोकस करना चाहिए। इसके अलावा अपने बहुत ज़्यादा फ्रूट से और अपनी आपके पर्सनल फ़ायदे नुकसान से जोड़ के आप चीज़ों कर्मों करने से वो बहुत सारी चीज़ें हमारे को नेगेटिविटी तक लेके जाती हैं और अपने आप को नेगेटिविटी से बचाना चाहिए, क्योंकि अंत में जो मिलना है हमें वो निश्चित है। सो हम जो अपना कर्म करते हैं उसके ऊपर अपने फलों का सोचने के प्रभाव से बचना चाहिए। यही गीता बार बार हमारे बताती है। और केवल कर्म पे फोकस करें और साथ के साथ कुछ समय के अंदर भगवान का नाम जरूर लेना चाहिए। कोई भी प्रोफेशनल लाइफ इतनी अपने ऊपर हावी नहीं होनी चाहिए कि हम 24 घंटे केवल उस कैरियर के बारे में, कंपनी के बारे में, अपने कार्य को कैसे लेके आना सोचें। ये जो जीवन का मूल्य है उसको भी समझना चाहिए और उस प्रोफेशनल लाइफ के साथ साथ कुछ समय भगवान के लिए भी निकालना चाहिए। भगवान का नाम जरूर लेना चाहिए एक दिन के अंदर, चाहे 10 मिनट लो या आधे घंटे लो, और नियमित रूप से लेना चाहिए। भगवान का धन्यवाद जरूर अदा करना चाहिए कि भगवान ने हमारे को स्वस्थ शरीर दिया हुआ है और जितने भी मैं आज इस स्थिति में हूँ सब भगवान की कृपा के कारण है। आई थिंक मैं गीता से यही समझ पाया हूँ। थैंक
यू सो मच। नाउ how will you summarize the learnings from Gita, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Nakbal. Actually, I am not a right person to answer your questions. But even though the question you have asked, I am trying to answer the question. The lessons from Gita, which I could understand in a very simple words, that one thing I could understand is that Gita always says that I am not this body, like I am not Arun Sharma, and I am basically spirit soul, and which has come from our original home, that is basically Golok Vrindavan Dham, and that is because of my own will I have come to this earth or planet. Now I have been given this opportunity like in this human life, and I have to use this opportunity to go back to my original home. This is the real purpose of the life. So उसके लिए मुझे किस प्रकार के कर्म करने चाहिए वो गीता में लिखा हुआ है, एंड अगर मैं इसको समराइज करके बोलूँ तो गीता का श्लोक जो 18.65 है, मन मना भव मद भक्ति मदयाजी माम नमस्कुरु माँ वश सत्य प्रति जाने प्रियो सीता वे। मतलब है भगवान इसमें कहते हैं, जब अर्जुन बहुत सारे चैप्टर पढ़ने के बाद होंगे, अगर प्रभु मैं कंफ्यूज हो गया हूँ तो मुझे कृपा करके संक्षेप में बताइए। तो भगवान इसको संक्षेप में बताते हैं कि जितना तेरे को तो बताया तो सबको भूल के केवल इसको याद कर ले, जिसमें कहते हैं मन मना भव मद भक्ति मदयाजी माम नमस्कुरु। मतलब मन में मेरा मनन कर, मेरी पूजा कर, मेरी भक्ति कर और मुझे नमस्कार कर। अगर तू ये 4 काम कर लेगा तो अंत में तू मुझे ही प्राप्त करेगा। ये मैं तुझे सत्य वचन कहता हूँ, क्योंकि तू मुझे अति प्रिय है। तो मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि भगवान ने स्वयं अपनी वाणी में बोला है कि मेरे पास आने का तरीका क्या है। भगवान कहता है अपने कर्म करने के साथ साथ में केवल मेरे को मनन करता रहे, मेरी पूजा कर, मेरी भक्ति कर, मुझे नमस्कार कर। इतना सिंपलीफाई कर दिया भगवान ने। भगवान भी कितने दयालु है, इतना सिंपलीफाइड फॉर्म में बता दिया है। और उसके बाद भी अगर हम भगवान को याद नहीं करते, भगवान की पूजा नहीं करते हैं, तो भगवान के धाम वापस जाना बहुत ही डिफिकल्ट है। इसके लिए मेरे तो लर्निंग्स फ्रॉम गीता से यही है कि समय मिलने का रेगुलर जो है हमें भगवान का नाम लेना चाहिए। हम किसी भी रूप में लें, किसी प्रकार से लें, नहीं, भगवान का नाम निश्चित रूप में लेना चाहिए। और कलयुग के अंदर केवल भगवान का नाम ही उद्धार हो सकता है, और कोई दूसरा कारण नहीं है और कोई दूसरा रास्ता नहीं है। इसलिए अंत में मेरा जो लर्निंग है गीता से वो यही है कि प्रभु का नाम ही केवल हमें वापस हमें अपने घर भेज सकता है। इसलिए भगवान के नाम की महिमा का, भगवान के गुणों का बारंबार नाम लेना चाहिए, और केवल यही एक रास्ता है परम धाम जाने का। धन्यवाद। थैंक यू।
Sir, it was a wonderful interaction with you. Thanks for sharing your views and giving us valuable insights. Thanks once again. Hare Krishna. Thank you all listeners. Now we will be available for live question and answers. Thank you.